Hey there! How have you been these days? Have you been stressed or relaxed? Have you been feeling down or pretty good? In any case, are you ready to adventure into a peace that doubts everything once deemed true to prove that everything is true? Come and play 6 days of meditation with us, along with philosopher René Descartes. René Descartes is a really good guide to meditation, as he's also the author of Meditations on the First Philosophy. And not only was he a French philosopher, but he was also a mathematician before this and a metaphysician or scientist. Descartes was a deeply insightful, profoundly smart, and most especially, a philosophical man down to the bone, making him known as the father of modern Western philosophy. The best-known philosophical statement most are familiar with is, "I think, therefore I am," which came from him and Meditations, the written work we are about to venture into. And most importantly, regarding meditations, Descartes believed the brain and the mind of we humans were separate from each other. This journey comes with 6 meditations of Descartes that you'll be going through each day of this philosophical adventure. Meditations was written in the 17th century, which was 400 years ago. So a lot of things back then that seem like common sense now were actually causes of intellectual and scientific revolutions. Because of movements such as the Renaissance before the 17th century, these created a new era that challenged traditional beliefs, caused religious turmoil, and questioned already established philosophies. All of these led to the main reasons why Descartes wrote Meditations: to overcome doubt, to replace traditional methods of philosophy with new ones based on reason, and to defend his belief in God. Descartes wanted to create a thought system based on reason, exploring main themes of doubt, existence, God, and the problem between the separation of the mind from the body. So, are you ready to play? Let's play! Welcome to the first day of meditation. Of the things which may be brought within the sphere of the doubtful. Descartes tells us to doubt everything to achieve true knowledge. This is because our childhood or our previous beliefs and opinions we believe to be true are actually false because they have been based on our senses, and Descartes realizes that his senses have sometimes misled him. So, it is unwise to fully trust anything that has deceived us in the past. So we have to completely rethink and rebuild our understanding of the world to establish a more solid foundation for knowledge. But Descartes also tells us that not all our previous beliefs are false, though we must focus on fighting the principles that underlie all our previous opinions. An argument Descartes made that can serve as an example is how our dreams can often feel incredibly real, making it difficult to distinguish between waking life and sleep. This uncertainty highlights the fundamental challenge of determining what is truly real and what is merely an illusion. The images in our dreams are based on real things, such as properties of the physical world. Another example, Descartes argues that while the sciences such as physics, astronomy, and medicine, which deal with complex and tangible things, are doubtful, but mathematics, meanwhile, offers a higher degree of certainty, because mathematical truths, which deal with simple and abstract concepts, are not dependent on the physical world, and are therefore less susceptible to doubt or error. Lastly, Descartes did a thought experiment where he imagines that a powerful, deceitful being, or an evil genius, is tricking him into believing that everything around him, including his senses, is false. By doing this, he hopes to reach a state where he can avoid believing anything false. So, congratulations! You've made it to the end of the first day of meditation. See you on day 2! Welcome to the second day of meditation, of the nature of the human mind, and that it is more easily known than the body. Here, Descartes tells us that the act of thinking, feeling, and perceiving proves our existence. But he was also confused with his identity and the nature of his soul, despite having a clear understanding of his physical body, therefore telling us again that the self is mainly a thinking thing of introspection and reason, separate from our physical attributes and/or imagination. An example Descartes gave for this meditation is how a piece of hot wax, remains the same even after it has been melted, meaning to say that our true knowledge of objects is not only based on sensory perception, because this can only be understood by the mind, not our senses nor imagination. He concludes this meditation by saying that our own existence is more certain than anything else because we are thinking beings. And he also wants us to realize that the mind is the easiest thing to know. Overall, just because you sense and feel that something is real, you have to think about its realness first using reason. And congratulations once again, because you made it to the end of day 2. See you on the third meditation.
Congratulations, you've reached the third day of meditation, of God that He exists. While Descartes still doubts the existence of bodily things, he is certain that he is a thing that thinks, a thing that doubts, wills, desires, imagines, and perceives, among many other things. He emphasized that only certainty lies in clear and distinct perceptions. On this day of meditation, he reflected on the errors of his past judgments, and he questioned the reliability of sensory based ideas. For example, his sensory based idea of the sun differs from the rational idea. He observed that his sensory idea of the sun, based on his direct experience and his senses, suggests that the sun is as small as it appears to be to the naked eye. However, his rational idea, based on reason and scientific knowledge, reveals that the sun is much larger than it appears from Earth. He then introduces the concept of innate ideas, and he questioned whether the external world reflects these ideas. He recognized the necessity to explore whether God exists and whether or not he is a deceiver. Moreover, Descartes also stated that an effect must contain at least as much reality as its cause, and nothing more perfect can come from something less perfect. For example, a stone cannot exist unless produced by something with the qualities of stone. Likewise, ideas must be caused by something with at least as much reality as what the ideas represent. The objective reality and ideas must have a cause with formal reality. Hence, Descartes concludes that if an idea's objective reality is greater than what he possesses, it must come from a greater, perfect being, leading him to deduce the existence of God. The idea of God, a being who is infinite, eternal, and all knowing, could not have originated from Descartes, a finite being. This idea must have been placed within him by a being more perfect than himself, namely, God. He explains that his existence and the idea of a perfect God required the actual existence of such a being, as he could not have conceived it otherwise. He refutes the possibility that his parents or any lesser cause could be responsible of his being as a thinking entity, concluding that God alone sustains him and placed this innate idea in him. Congratulations! You've completed the third day of meditation. Moving on to the fourth day of meditation of the true and the false. On this day, Descartes reflected on his understanding of the mind, God, and error. He asserts that the human mind is clearer than physical objects, and the idea of a perfect God is even clearer. He affirmed the existence of God, reasoning that his own existence and the presence of such an idea can only be explained by God's reality. He argued that God, a perfect being, cannot deceive him, for deception implies imperfection. While Descartes acknowledges that humans are prone to errors, he attributes this not as a flaw in God's design, but rather to the limitations of the human mind and understanding. Descartes also addressed the idea that error is not a real, positive thing created by God, but a deficiency or lack of knowledge. While God could have made him and humans incapable of error, it is part of the perfection of the universe that some parts, like humans, are limited and can also make mistakes. Descartes concludes that the source of error lies in the misuse of free will. Humans make errors when they form judgments without sufficient understanding. However, he also suggested that through careful reflection and disciplined meditation, one can avoid errors by not making judgments without clear and distinct understanding. Congratulations, you've reached the end of day 4 of meditation.
It's the fifth day of meditation. of the essence of material things, and again, of God that He exists. Here, Descartes evaluates material things by examining their thought representation, and particularly, his goal is to uncover the truth by doubting and analyzing the essence of objects, the truth in which refers to if they exist or not. Regardless of our ability to think of them or to not, material things still hold traits and characteristics. Even if an object of thought doesn't physically exist at hand when thought of, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. The mere fact of it being a thought proves how it does indeed exist. It's already invented and fixed essence, backing up that claim. Therefore, material things may exist in thought, even if not physically, and their essence that had already been set is not created by which when the object is thought of. Given that René Descartes had aforementioned how thoughts or things have fixed characteristics, it only further solidifies how their nature is recognized, not recreated when a certain object is thought of again. On the matter of God, however, even as Descartes had stated how he could persuade himself to believe that both the existence of God and the essence of God can be separated. He then only contradicts this by saying that God's essence and existence are inseparable. The idea of his existence possibly comes from the idea of his essence. But moreover, though we can say that he possesses some sort of existence, it doesn't mean that he exists in the flesh. But in that sense, like Descartes' example of imagining a winged horse, does it stand on the level of the concept of God's existence, provided that it has its own essence? Not quite, given that the concept of God involves necessity, which drives the thought to think in a way that believes God truly exists. Welcome to our final day of meditation, of the existence of material things and of the real distinction between the soul and body of man. In the initial parts of the meditation, René Descartes had pointed out how the power of imagination differs from the power of understanding, in which he argued that imagination depends on something external, while understanding remains the same regardless. With that thought, he'd connect that concept with the union of the mind of man to its body, how both are unequal in how they see and sense things, for the body stands on its own with the foundation of senses, not intellect and reason like the mind. The body was René Descartes' first focus, wherein he had deemed it different from the mind by giving examples that illustrate how shallow the body could sense, contrasting to how drastic the mind functions in response. The body feels sensations such as pleasure and pain, yet it is the mind that reasons and understands them. As a casual thought, he himself states that the mind can be without a body, and subjectively speaking, it cannot be the other way around, as the body does not possess the ability to reason, and it cannot function with no clear understanding. It's also worth noting how he had said that the body is divisible to parts, while the mind is indivisible. In conclusion, despite the mind and the body being in constant union, there is no doubt that they were different. Both have separate ways of seeing the present. Nevertheless, neither is dominant over the other, as neither controls the other. That's it for meditation number 6. Congratulations! You've now reached the end of the game. Now you hold the knowledge of the 6 meditations of First Philosophy by René Descartes. Thanks for playing!